Step out of the house. Step out of the house.
Welcome to Sinister Journal. In today's video, we present a detailed, factual account chronicling the rise, transformation, and eventual legal downfall of Ruby Franke and her business partner, Jodi Hildebrandt. This narrative follows the evolution of a family vlogging channel that began as an authentic portrayal of everyday life and gradually transitioned into a platform that embraced increasingly rigid, disciplinary practices. We will explore the early beginnings of the channel, its rapid growth, the critical partnership and shift in content direction, the public outcry that ensued, the triggering incident that led to a thorough investigation, and the eventual legal consequences that reshaped the lives of those involved. In 2015, Ruby Franke launched her YouTube channel, 8 Passengers, offering a window into the daily life of a Utah-based family. At the time, Franke's channel provided an intimate look into the lives of her husband, Kevin, and their 6 children. The videos were characterized by their daily documentation of family routines, including morning preparations, school drop-offs, family meals, and weekend outings. With a consistent upload schedule of up to 5 days a week, the channel quickly gained traction with viewers who were drawn to the honest depiction of everyday family life. The channel's appeal lay in its portrayal of both the mundane and the celebratory aspects of family living. It resonated with audiences through its seemingly authentic look at the trials and triumphs of raising a large family. As the channel's popularity grew, 8 Passengers amassed millions of subscribers and billions of cumulative views. The format of documenting ordinary routines and special occasions became a hallmark of the family vlogging trend that was emerging at that time. Viewers appreciated the transparency and consistency with which Franke shared her family's life, and the channel became a prominent example of how digital media could offer a personal glimpse into domestic realities. Initially, the content on 8 Passengers was built around candid documentation of family moments. Videos featured routine activities such as cooking meals, playing together at home, celebrating birthdays, and managing school days. The channel's success was rooted in its authentic approach, which allowed viewers to feel as though they were part of the family's daily experiences. However, as the channel's audience grew, so did the ambition of its content creators. Around 2020, a noticeable shift occurred. The Franke channel began to place greater emphasis on parenting practices, and a more structured approach to child rearing emerged in the content. What started as a simple portrayal of family life began to evolve into a narrative that underscored the importance of discipline and routine. Videos increasingly highlighted the methods Ruby employed in managing behavior, where boundaries were strictly enforced and discipline was delivered in a way that was both systematic and, at times, severe. This evolution was partly a response to the demands of an expanding audience that was looking not only for entertainment, but also for advice on effective parenting techniques. The emphasis on discipline was presented as a balanced mix of strictness and care, a way to instill responsibility and resilience in children. While many viewers found this approach appealing, especially those looking for a model of disciplined parenting, it also set the stage for growing concern as the practices depicted began to border on the extreme. In 2022, Ruby Franke took steps to diversify her business ventures by forming a close partnership with Jodi Hildebrandt, a licensed therapist and life coach with a background in counseling and family coaching. Hildebrandt had built a reputation in Utah for offering guidance on relationship and parenting issues, and her expertise in therapeutic methods was seen as a valuable complement to Franke's established public persona. Together, they launched a new initiative that initially carried the name ConneXions and was later rebranded as Moms of Truth on Instagram. This program was designed to provide viewers with structured parenting and marital guidance, delivered through a series of instructional videos, live classes, and podcasts. The new content format signaled a departure from the casual, diary-style vlogging of earlier years. Instead, it embraced a model that was more reminiscent of self-help seminars and relationship coaching sessions. The partnership was marketed as an opportunity to combine real-life experience with professional counseling expertise. The content promised to teach families how to overcome challenges, improve relationships, and foster a disciplined yet nurturing environment. However, as the program gained momentum, its content began to reflect a dramatic shift. The very techniques that were intended to offer constructive advice started to evolve into a rigid and inflexible system of discipline. This new approach would later become one of the focal points of public and legal scrutiny. As the partnership between Franke and Hildebrandt solidified, the channel's content underwent a significant transformation. The portrayal of family life began to incorporate more structured and, at times, severe disciplinary practices. While early content had balanced affectionate parenting with occasional firm corrections, the later videos started to showcase a system that was markedly more inflexible. Parents were shown enforcing strict routines that often included extended periods of manual labor, isolation from family interactions, and the denial of basic comforts. The depiction of such practices was interwoven with discussions of moral responsibility and the need for children to understand the consequences of their actions. Over time, there were multiple accounts from community members and viewers who raised alarms about what they perceived as overly harsh measures. Reports began to surface alleging that children were being denied essential needs such as food, water, and proper rest as part of a punitive regime. Online forums and social media platforms became a hub for concerned viewers, with many sharing personal accounts and petitions urging child welfare authorities to investigate the practices portrayed on the channel. These concerns were not isolated to a single video, but reflected a pattern that had evolved over several years. The shift toward a more authoritarian method of child rearing, initially marketed as a disciplined approach, eventually raised critical questions about the welfare of the children involved. The rise of 8 passengers coincided with the increasing prevalence of family vlogging as a genre. However, as the Franke channel transitioned into more structured and strict content, a growing number of viewers began to express unease. Social media platforms became an important outlet for these voices, with numerous posts and petitions circulating that called for an investigation into the well-being of the Franke children. Parents, child advocates, and even former viewers voiced their concerns regarding the nature of the disciplinary measures being portrayed. Criticism was not only directed at the apparent severity of the practices, but also at the potential exploitation inherent in documenting such intimate family moments for public consumption. Many expressed worry that the children were being placed in a situation where their privacy and rights were being compromised in favor of online fame and revenue generation. As the controversy grew, community members noted that the practices depicted in the videos appeared to be part of a systematic pattern. Social media campaigns emerged that demanded closer oversight by child protective services, and the issue garnered significant attention in online communities dedicated to parenting and digital ethics. The mounting pressure from concerned citizens would soon culminate in a dramatic turning point that forced the authorities to take action. The situation reached a crisis point in August 2023. On that fateful day, a 12-year-old child from the Franke household, who was at the time under the care of Jodi Hildebrandt, escaped the residence in a desperate bid for help. The child's escape was marked by clear signs of distress. Eyewitnesses reported that he appeared emaciated and visibly undernourished, with open wounds and evidence of physical restraint in the form of duct tape around his wrists and ankles. According to multiple accounts, the child managed to leave the premises by climbing out of a window and subsequently sought refuge at a neighbor's home. The neighbor, alarmed by the child's condition, immediately contacted law enforcement. The timely intervention by the neighbor set off a series of events that would lead to a full-scale investigation into the family's living conditions. The child's physical state was deeply concerning. Reports indicated that he had suffered from prolonged periods without adequate food or water, and his injuries suggested that he had been subjected to severe physical punishment. The neighbor's swift action in alerting the authorities ensured that emergency services were dispatched promptly, and the child was quickly removed from the environment that had been endangering his health and safety. Once law enforcement arrived at the scene, a comprehensive investigation was launched. Authorities, in coordination with child welfare officials, began a thorough examination of the living conditions at both the Franke and Hildebrandt residences. The investigation involved detailed interviews with neighbors, emergency responders, and individuals familiar with the family's situation. During the initial stages of the investigation, investigators discovered significant evidence that pointed to a systematic pattern of abuse. The child's physical condition, marked by malnourishment, visible injuries, and signs of restraint, was corroborated by forensic evidence collected at the scene. In addition, Witness statements from the neighbor and other community members painted a picture of a household where harsh disciplinary methods were routinely employed. Child Protective Services were immediately involved, and the authorities made the decision to remove the affected children from the home. The Division of Child and Family Services took custody of the children to ensure their immediate safety while the investigation continued. This decisive action was critical in preventing further harm to the minors and provided an opportunity for experts to assess the overall state of the household. As investigators continued to gather evidence, it became clear that the disciplinary measures in place were not isolated incidents, but rather a consistent pattern of behavior. Detailed documentation from interviews and physical assessments revealed that the children had been exposed to an environment that many described as akin to a work camp. The records indicated that the children were not only subjected to extreme physical punishments, but also forced to adhere to routines that denied them basic human necessities, such as sufficient food, proper rest, and access to comfortable living conditions. In the wake of the investigation, both Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt faced serious legal consequences. The evidence collected during the investigation, coupled with the eyewitness accounts and physical evidence, provided a compelling case that the disciplinary measures in the household constituted aggravated child abuse. By December 2023, legal proceedings had advanced to a critical juncture. Ruby Franke entered a plea agreement in which she pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. The plea deal also involved stipulations regarding future testimony in the case, as authorities sought to gain further insights into the extent of the practices in place. Shortly thereafter, Jodi Hildebrandt also pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. Both individuals faced a series of charges that carried severe penalties under state law. Under the legal framework in Utah, the sentences for such charges are determined based on a series of consecutive terms. In this case, both Franke and Hildebrandt were sentenced to 4 consecutive prison terms, with each term ranging from 1 to 15 years. Although the cumulative maximum sentence could theoretically extend beyond 60 years, state law imposes a limit such that the total time served does not exceed 30 years for offenses of this nature. The legal proceedings were marked by extensive courtroom testimony, detailed examination of the evidence, and robust arguments from both the prosecution and defense. The sentencing marked a turning point in the case, signaling a decisive response by the judicial system to the allegations of systematic abuse. The penalties imposed were intended not only to serve as retribution for the offenses committed, but also as a deterrent to similar practices in the future. In addition to the prison sentences, both Franke and Hildebrandt faced further repercussions. The YouTube platform permanently banned content related to 8 passengers and the later initiatives, and Hildebrandt's counseling license was surrendered pending the outcome of a separate disciplinary investigation. These measures were part of a broader effort by authorities and industry regulators to curtail the influence of individuals who had misused their public platforms to propagate harmful practices. The case of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt has had far-reaching implications beyond the immediate legal consequences. The incident has sparked a national conversation about the ethics and responsibilities of family vlogging and the child influencer industry. Over the past several years, family vlogging had emerged as a lucrative avenue for content creators, with millions of viewers tuning in to witness the day-to-day lives of families. However, this case has cast a stark light on the potential dangers of exploiting children's lives for public consumption and revenue generation. Critics of the family vlogging model argue that when children are thrust into the public eye as part of a monetized platform, there is an inherent risk of their welfare being compromised. The systematic nature of the disciplinary practices depicted in the Franke channel has led to calls for stricter oversight and regulation of child influencers. Legislators and child welfare advocates are now examining whether existing laws provide adequate protection for minors involved in digital content creation. At the heart of this debate is the question of how to balance creative freedom and economic opportunity with the fundamental rights and needs of children. The Franke case has underscored the necessity for clear guidelines and regulatory frameworks to ensure that the interests of children are safeguarded, especially in an era where online content is both pervasive and influential. This discussion has prompted policymakers in several jurisdictions to consider new laws or amendments to existing child labor regulations that specifically addressed the challenges posed by the digital content industry. The unfolding of events had a profound impact on the Franke family and the broader community. Prior to the crisis, the Franke household was presented as an idealized picture of modern family life, a narrative that was carefully curated and widely celebrated by millions of subscribers. The dramatic shift in public perception following the revelations of abuse was not only a legal matter, but also a deeply personal tragedy for the family members involved. The immediate aftermath of the critical incident saw a range of reactions from different segments of the community. Neighbors, friends, and even former supporters of the channel expressed shock and dismay at the discoveries. In public statements, several individuals acknowledged that while the early videos had portrayed a picture of warmth and unity, there were long-standing concerns about the disciplinary methods that had been employed behind the scenes. Community members who had once admired the channel now found themselves grappling with the reality that what they had witnessed on screen was only a part of a much darker story. Within the Franke family itself, the impact was multifaceted. The removal of the children by Child Protective Services brought immediate relief for some, while others expressed sadness over the loss of the familial structure that had once been broadcast for public consumption. In interviews, members of the extended family spoke of a sense of betrayal, not only by the public figure that Ruby had become, but also by the systems that had allowed such practices to go unchecked for so long. The personal repercussions extended to Ruby Franke's estranged husband, Kevin. Once a partner in both marriage and the family vlogging venture, he found himself embroiled in the legal and emotional fallout. In the wake of the investigation, Kevin redirected his efforts toward rebuilding relationships with his children. His journey to reestablish trust and stability was met with both support and skepticism from those who had followed the channel's rise to fame. His subsequent legal actions, including lawsuits aimed at holding those responsible accountable, underscored the deep divisions and emotional wounds that the case had inflicted upon the family. As the legal proceedings progressed, the story of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt became the subject of numerous documentaries, news reports, and in-depth investigative pieces. One notable example was a documentary series that premiered on a major streaming platform, which aimed to present an unvarnished look at the evolution of the Franke family vlog and the events leading up to the critical incident. The series featured exclusive footage, interviews with family members, and testimonies from neighbors and experts who analyzed the impact of extreme parenting practices. The documentary narrative provided viewers with a layered understanding of how a seemingly wholesome family channel transformed into a platform where harsh disciplinary methods were normalized. It presented the case as a cautionary tale, inviting audiences to question the broader implications of family vlogging and the responsibilities that come with the creation of online content. By juxtaposing early, lighthearted videos with later, more disturbing footage and documented evidence of abuse, the series painted a comprehensive picture of a family in crisis and the mechanisms that allowed such a transformation to occur. Media portrayals further underscored the complexities inherent in the case, highlighting how public perception can be manipulated by carefully curated online content that masks underlying realities until a critical event forces a deeper examination. This media scrutiny played a role in galvanizing public opinion and pushing authorities to take decisive action, reinforcing the idea that accountability in the digital age is both possible and necessary. The revelations surrounding the Franke case have prompted a broader reassessment within the media and regulatory communities regarding the oversight of family vlogging and child influencer activities. Industry watchdogs, child advocacy groups, and lawmakers have all weighed in on the need for stricter controls and guidelines. Several proposals have emerged, including recommendations for mandatory background checks for content creators, tighter regulations on the monetization of child-related content, and the establishment of oversight bodies specifically dedicated to monitoring child influencers. These proposals reflect a growing consensus that while digital platforms offer immense opportunities for creative expression and economic gain, they also carry significant responsibilities, particularly when minors are involved. The Franke case, with its well-documented progression from benign family content to a scenario of systematic abuse, has become a rallying point for those advocating for reform. The discussions now center on how best to protect vulnerable children from exploitation while still preserving the benefits of digital content creation for families who wish to share their lives publicly. Following the sentencing of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt, the repercussions of the case continue to unfold. Both individuals are now serving consecutive prison terms under conditions designed to ensure that they are held accountable for their actions, while also providing a measure of deterrence for similar cases in the future. The legal framework, with its stipulation that the maximum time served will not exceed 30 years, reflects the balance that the justice system seeks to strike between punishment and rehabilitation. Meanwhile, the children, now under the care of state child welfare agencies, are receiving support aimed at helping them recover from the trauma they experienced. Child psychologists and social workers are engaged in ongoing efforts to provide these minors with a safe and nurturing environment, a stark contrast to the conditions that led to the intervention. Community programs and advocacy groups have also stepped in to offer assistance, underscoring the collective responsibility to safeguard the well-being of those affected by such high-profile cases. In the wake of the legal proceedings, public discourse continues to evolve. Discussions about the responsibilities of content creators, the ethical boundaries of family vlogging, and the role of regulatory bodies in the digital age are ongoing. These debates are shaping policies and prompting legislative reviews at both state and national levels, with the ultimate goal of preventing future incidents of exploitation and abuse. The story of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt is emblematic of a broader phenomenon in which individuals' public personas are intricately tied to the content they create. In the early years, Franke was seen as an authentic, relatable figure whose videos captured the joy and challenges of family life. The transformation of her channel, from one that celebrated the everyday moments of a loving family to one that later showcased a rigid, punitive approach to parenting, raises important questions about the pressures and incentives of the digital world. In the pursuit of online fame and revenue, content creators may feel compelled to push boundaries and adopt increasingly extreme measures in order to maintain viewer interest and engagement. The Franke case illustrates how such pressures can lead to the normalization of practices that would otherwise be considered unacceptable. It serves as a cautionary tale about the potential consequences of allowing public image and profit motives to override the fundamental needs and rights of children. Moreover, the case highlights the inherent risks of blurring the lines between personal life and public performance. When intimate family moments are broadcast for mass consumption, the distinction between private experiences and public content becomes increasingly ambiguous. This ambiguity can create an environment in which abusive practices are not only hidden from view, but are also inadvertently encouraged by a system that rewards sensational content. The account presented here traces a long and complex trajectory, from the humble beginnings of a family vlogging channel to a dramatic fall marked by legal intervention and public outcry. Ruby Franke's journey, once celebrated for its authenticity and familial warmth, took a dark turn as the pursuit of online success and the adoption of increasingly rigid disciplinary practices led to severe consequences for her children and her family as a whole. The involvement of Jodi Hildebrandt in this transformation underscores how partnerships formed in the digital arena can have far-reaching and unintended consequences. What began as a venture promising expert advice and structured guidance evolved into a situation where harmful practices were normalized, ultimately resulting in the endangerment of children's lives and the dismantling of a once beloved family brand. As legal proceedings continue and regulatory bodies examine the broader implications for the child influencer industry, the story of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt remains a stark reminder of the need for accountability in all facets of digital content creation. It is a call to action for policymakers, industry stakeholders, and the viewing public alike to ensure that the pursuit of online fame does not come at the expense of the most vulnerable members of our society. Thank you for watching this comprehensive account of the evolution of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt's story. Please subscribe to Sinister Journal and enable notifications to stay updated on further developments in this case and additional factual reports on significant events. We remain committed to providing objective, fact-based analysis as this story and the broader issues it represents continues to evolve.